Jai Gurudev, we have already touched upon the intellectual understanding of sattvic diet, what to eat and what not to eat, and how much to eat. The question remains, how do we move away from theory to practice? We know that food discipline requires more than intellectual knowledge. It requires deep wisdom and the right practices. Can you elaborate on how Sudarshan Kriya, yoga asanas, and other practices contribute to creating food discipline in our daily lives? That's a crucial point. As you said, intellectual knowledge about nutrition and eating habits is one thing, but actually applying that knowledge requires a shift in our consciousness. Food discipline is not just about following rules, but about cultivating a mindful relationship with food. This is where the practices of yoga, meditation, and Sudarshan Kriya come into play. First, we need to understand that food is not just about taste or satisfaction, it is an integral part of our well being and spiritual health. Eating is an act of self care and self respect. When we treat food with reverence, by eating mindfully with awareness and gratitude, we align ourselves with a higher level of awareness, which in turn helps us make the right choices consistently. Sudarshan Kriya plays a transformative role in this process. It is a powerful breathing technique that calms the mind, cleanses the system, and harmonizes the body's rhythms. When we practice Sudarshan Kriya regularly, we create a mental and emotional space that allows us to make mindful decisions not just about food but about life itself. It helps us to be more aware of our habits, of our emotional triggers, and reasons why we turn to certain foods, especially comfort foods during moments of stress or emotional imbalance. Yoga asanas helps us connect to our body with our body on a deeper level. Many times we don't realize how the body feels after eating certain foods. Yoga enhances our awareness so that when we eat, we can sense how certain foods affect our energy levels, mood, and mental clarity. Over time, as we develop a deeper connection with our body, we become more in tune with what our body truly needs, whether it is nourishment from fresh vegetables or a detoxifying soup, and what doesn't serve us. When we practice both yoga and pranayama breathing exercises, we cultivate a state of mental clarity and calmness which reduces cravings and urges. It is not just about saying no to unhealthy foods, but also about not feeling the urge to indulge in them in the first place. That's very insightful. It seems that meditation and breathing techniques do more than just reduce stress, they transform our very relationship with food. But let's talk about the real world challenges. Many people know the intellectual side of eating a sattvic diet, but they struggle with the discipline. There are emotional factors, stresses, and even cultural habits that influence eating. How do these practices help manage emotional eating, cravings, and habits that might undermine food discipline? This is one of the most important areas where meditation, yoga, and the principles of sattvic eating offer tremendous support. Emotional eating and cravings are often rooted in stress or emotional imbalances. The mind seeks temporary comfort in food, especially foods that provide an instant dopamine release like sugar or fatty foods. Over time, this leads to unhealthy eating habits. Here is where practices like Sudarshan Kriya come in. Sudarshan Kriya specifically addresses these mental and emotional patterns. By bringing the breath into focus, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes relaxation and calms the stress response. As we begin to breathe more mindfully, our emotional triggers, those moments when we feel the urge to reach for unhealthy foods, become less intense and more manageable. Research shows that stress activates the same neural pathways that influence cravings and food consumption. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that chronic stress leads to a preference for high fat, high sugar foods. The cortisol hormone released during stress increases appetite and cravings for comfort foods. In this context, practices like Sudarshan Kriya have been shown to reduce stress and lower cortisol levels, thereby reducing the intensity of food cravings. Moreover, studies on mindful eating emphasize the importance of present moment awareness. Research in the journal Appetite found that people who practiced mindful eating were less likely to experience emotional overeating and had greater control over their food choices. Yoga also supports this by enhancing self regulation and making us more emotionally resilient, helping us manage stress without turning to food for comfort. That's a great connection to the science of emotional eating and how these practices can create lasting change. But even beyond emotional eating, there is a general challenge of discipline. Many people find it difficult to resist unhealthy foods, even when they know what is good for them. How do you develop the discipline to make these healthier choices consistently, day in and day out? This is where wisdom and consciousness come into play. A disciplined approach to food is not just about a willpower, but about understanding the underlying reasons behind our choices. When we start practicing mindful eating, we don't just focus on the food itself, but on how it aligns with our overall well being. A great example is the concept of intuitive eating, which is rooted in mindfulness and is supported by research in behavioral psychology. Intuitive eating teaches us to tune into our body's natural hunger signals and desires without the interference of external distractions or emotional triggers. This leads to greater self regulation in food choices. In fact, studies from the International Journal of Behavioral Nutrition and Physical Activity have shown that mindfulness based approaches like intuitive eating can lead to improved food choices, more balanced eating patterns, and a reduction in overconsumption of unhealthy foods. Sattvic eating is essentially a mindful eating practice, one that focuses on choosing foods that nourish the body and mind, and rather than indulging in foods that can cause discomfort or sluggishness. So, firstly, we need to set clear intentions. It all starts with clarity. Why do you want to adopt a disciplined food practice? The Sattvic diet is not just about avoiding certain foods, it's about nourishing your body, mind, and spirit. Having a clear intention behind your food choices gives you the internal motivation to stick to them. Mindful eating practice, as simple as it sounds, eating without distractions like phones or TV and slowing down to fully appreciate your meal is a revolutionary practice. This allows you to connect with the energy of the food and its effect on your body. Breath and meditation, interesting, integrating Sudarshan Kriya or even simple deep breathing exercises before meals can help you clear mental clutter and increases awareness. This makes it easier to choose food based on what your body really needs rather than what your mind or emotions are craving. Daily yoga asanas, whether it is a few minutes of stretching or a full practice, yoga asanas not only support physical health but help you become more in tune with your body's internal needs. This enhanced body awareness will naturally guide your food choices. This is incredibly comprehensive. It sounds like building food discipline isn't just about choosing the right foods, it's about creating a new relationship with food, one that aligns with your body's needs and supports your mental clarity and spiritual growth. Exactly, when we begin to see food as an offering to the body, as a means to nourish not just the physical self, but the mind and soul, we naturally develop the discipline to choose food that serves us holistically. The spiritual practices of the art of living help us align our thoughts, words, and actions with this intention by bringing awareness, gratitude, and mindfulness into every aspect of our eating habits. We transform food from a mechanical activity into a conscious act of self care and spiritual nourishment. Jai Gurudev.